Story 1. I, 35-year-old male, am planning to tell my wife, 37-year-old female, that I want a divorce at our next couples therapy session. We have been married for 4 years and have been together for almost a decade. She has a lot of stress from her job and trauma from her family and past relationships, but she is happy with our marriage and I'm miserable. For context, it took me 2 years of asking for her to agree to go to couples counseling in the first place, and we've been in therapy, together and alone, for almost 2 more years. She knows I'm miserable, she knows I'm depressed, but she has put in so little effort to make any changes that I'm just done. I'm sad all the time and she knows that. But it doesn't seem to make a difference. Our therapist knows about my plan. When I told her, she said that she was a little surprised that I had held on so long with nothing changing or improving. Obviously she didn't tell me about their individual sessions, but she did say that nothing in any of our sessions, couples or individual, led her to believe that I was making unreasonable requests or ignoring what she wanted. Our love languages are different and I know that, but mine never get addressed. I crave physical touch, not just intimacy, and want her to say kind things about me the way I do with her all the time. Her languages, quality time, and gift giving have taken precedent, and I honestly love buying her things she wants. I have the money and I love seeing her face when she gets something she's had her eye on. With regards to intimacy, I do everything, literally everything in bed to get both of us off, but I get touched so infrequently that I feel there must be something wrong with me. I know this is going to crush her, but I can't do this anymore. I don't even know what I'm looking for here. To vent? To get some assurance that I'm not a horrible person? I feel like I'm ruining her life and throwing away a decade of our lives. She also doesn't have the same support net that I do. Her family lives in Dallas, and her mom and dad have never been very warm or comforting, which is also making me feel worse about this decision.
In my opinion, he is not an asshole. What do you think? Comment below.
Story 2. Aida for yelling at a couple because of their kids at the airport. Last year, I, 16M, went backpacking across Europe with my mom, 44, for 3 weeks. We hit a few countries and it was a lot of fun, but towards the end of our trip we got sick. I barely had a rash, but my mom was hit bad with headaches, fever, nausea, and patches of puffy red rashes, inflammation on her neck. We were a day from our return flight, and our medical options in Rome weren't great, so we decided she'd see a doctor first thing when we got back. She was extremely exhausted after such a long trip and worsening, so by the time we got off our 16-hour flight back to Cali, she was practically a zombie. We were waiting in the line at customs for American citizens, and right behind us was a couple with 2 kids. It was a long line, so we were stuck with them for at least 20 minutes, and their kids were going wild. The 2 little boys looked to be around 4 and 7. They were screaming and running in and out of the line, bumping into people and stepping over feet. The parents were unbothered and speaking casually with each other in Italian. This was really upsetting my mom as they ran into us the most, and the screaming only exacerbated her headache. Now, I'm not very confrontational. Unlike my mother, I would rather bite my tongue, but seeing as she couldn't say much, it really bothered me. I kept telling myself I'd say something after one more time, and eventually I boiled over. I whipped around, looked them dead in the eyes, and said, "You speak English, right? Keep your kids in line." I didn't yell, but I was loud and firm. The mom just looked shocked, picked up her kids, and that was the end of it. My mom tried to say stop right beforehand, but didn't say much after. It wasn't until I told this story to my coworkers back at work that my boss said I sounded like a Karen and overreacted. I think I held it together remarkably well, but what do you think? For a little more context, we later found out my mom had a staph infection and almost went septic. Plus, she has multiple pre-existing conditions like cluster headaches, hyperthyroidism, her thyroid was removed, and sleep apnea. Added, I forgot, brain lesions from microstrokes and heart problems. Edit. I can't deny flying sick was not very considerate, but we did not have the funds to continue to stay abroad for the duration medical treatment would take, and we had to get back to our pets. Also, I want to mention that I did want her to see a doctor, but she said otherwise, and it was out of my hands. She is stubborn and literally almost died from another infection because she didn't want me to miss my first day ever of work.
In my opinion, everyone is an asshole. What do you think? Comment below.
Story 3. Aida for implementing a "you cook you clean" rule and leaving her to clean up her dishes after she made pasta. My wife and I switch off cooking. Both of us cook twice a week, and the days neither of us cook, it's a leftover night or takeout. We used to have the person that didn't cook do the dishes after the meals. I clean as a cook, so when it is my night, there are very few dishes for her to clean up. When she cooks, I swear she uses almost every single dish or pot for her meals. It is a disaster in the kitchen and takes me a long time to clean the whole thing up. I have had conversations before about this and have asked her to clean as she goes to reduce, then mess. She refuses and claims that is just what happens because she likes to make elaborate meals. She does make more elaborate meals than me and spends a while in the kitchen. I prefer to make more simple meals like stir-fry. I brought up last Thursday that I won't clean up after her cooking anymore. She left a huge mess and I was over it. That I will clean up my dinners and she can clean up hers. On Saturday, my cooking night, I made beef tips over no zero DLs and cleaned it all up. Sunday was her cooking night and she made homemade pasta and red pepper sauce. We ate and she didn't clean up her mess, and later the night she asked me to clean it up. I told her no, and reminded her what I told her, and pointed out I cleaned my stuff up. This bring me to this morning. I didn't do the dishes, and when she woke up there wasn't much room for her to make her coffee and breakfast. She pissed I didn't clean it up. We got in a huge argument before I left for work. She thinks I am a huge asshole, so I am asking for an outside opinion.
In my opinion, he is not an asshole. What do you think? Comment below.
Story 4. AIDA for not wanting to pay back the Parent Plus loan my dad took out for my college education? Last year, I, 26F, had a huge falling out with both of my parents, 61F and 62M. To make a long story short, my mother has a lot of narcissistic tendencies and is just not a nice person to be around. I finally dredged up the courage to tell her how the way she has treated me made me feel, and she did not like that at all. My dad and I always had a decent relationship, in the sense that he wasn't actively tanking my self-esteem throughout my childhood, so he was good in my eyes. We've had many conversations over the years about my mother's behavior and treatment. She also treats him poorly, and he's agreed with me in the past that the description of a narcissist seems to fit her. Fast forward to this argument between my mother and I, and he completely switches gears and takes her side. Instead of trying to understand my side of the story, he believes I should just ignore it like he does, because she's my mother. A few months of no contact go by, and my father reaches out asking if we can chat. I call him, and the only thing he has to say to me is that he wants me to take out a private loan of almost $100K so that I can give him that money to pay off the Parent Plus loan he independently signed for my college education when I was 17. For those that don't know, a Parent Plus loan is a loan entirely signed by the parent, and the payment plan is based off the parent's income. When I was preparing for college at the ripe old age of 17, no one ever really explained how these loans worked, and I certainly didn't understand that it would be something I would be paying off $800/month for essentially the rest of my adult life. To her credit, my mother told my father at the time to not sign for this loan. They didn't for my other siblings. He made the decision to do it anyway. It is entirely in his name, and legally he is not allowed to transfer it to me. Prior to this breakdown in our relationship, I had every intention of paying back this loan. My parents never really handed me anything for free, so I always just assumed that's how it would work. Now, however, I refuse to take out a private loan for almost $100K, which they wouldn't even approve most likely, so that he can get off scot-free, especially not after how I've been treated. That would legitimately ruin my life, and it's just starting. I would never be able to own a house or have children. I would be burdened by it forever. I also feel guilty because I know it was for my education, but I can't help but feel like it's not entirely fair to just dump it all on me. He was 52 years old when he signed for that loan. Definitely old enough and experienced enough to understand the consequences. I genuinely don't know if I'm in the wrong here, or if they are. The guilt is eating me up, but at the same time, there is something in me that just refuses to give in to them.
In my opinion, she is not an asshole. What do you think? Comment below. Subscribe for more interesting stories.